Hey folks, we're out here looking at our sheep and our horse. I'm here with Craig Castry. Now, I think I'd like to talk about, I'd like to talk today about our food source, what's happening with our food.
Okay, well,
our fresh produce, that comes out of the farmers' paddocks, and how it ends up at the supermarket. Obviously the growing technique, and a lot of people, as yourself, we've spoken about this and people know, our opinion on it, but this is on a separate occasion. I think it's time we brought it together and just thrashed it out.
Well, as you know, in the last 6 months I've been studying soil microbiology for a long time, and what's been revealed to me is gobsmacking. And look, it's a new frontier, Vasili. This is soil is largely unexplored, but how it relates to food and our own health, it's all interconnected.
It is.
Which is something that I don't think we understand.
I'll explain why, because it's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, well,
that's the problem. That's as simple as it is.
Yeah,
we've become so complacent that whatever we see we believe, and whatever we don't see it's make believe.
Yeah, true. So what's happening is the minute you start fertilising plants with high analysis NPK fertilisers, which is exactly how most of our food is produced, including hydroponics, it disconnects the plants from the soil microbiome, which we hear so much about these days, how it's important to have good bacteria in our guts, our microflora. And a lot of that bacteria is the same bacteria that's in the soil. So if you disconnect the plants from the soil, they don't get that bacteria. So when we consume those plants, we don't get it
either. So
which means that over time, our autoimmune systems are depleted. Yeah. So in amongst this study, what I've uncovered is that in 1965, 3% of the population had about 3% had autoimmune dysfunctional disease. And here we are with all we know. Yeah, with all the 2022,
all the smartest people in the world.
47% of us now have autoimmune dysfunction and disease.
Why has not that been announced anywhere?
Well, I don't know that they've really understood what the...
Mate, come on, we've got to stop now. Yes, I'm sick of this. Man, I am honestly tired of it.
But I'm talking about the soil microbiology.
Okay, yeah, but you...
I'm aware of it. I'm aware of it. Yeah, they think it's voodoo.
It is. It is. That's what they think. When you've got people falling sick like that, or they're constantly, the rates and the statistics are growing, you've got to pull the handbrake here, man, and say stop.
It's good you wrote that, because I've got a book at home, or it's a volume of books called "Food is Medicine."
Yes.
And food looks a little bit like the body parts that it's good for. So when you eat, for instance,
a sheep?
No.
Oh, I'm joking.
No.
Carrots.
A tomato. Tomato.
Yeah.
Blood red.
Yep. Blood.
Good for the heart.
Exactly.
No, good for the heart.
Yeah.
A couple of chambers, good for the heart.
Yeah.
So carrots. When you break one of those, you look at it, it looks like the eye.
Yeah.
So it's full of carotene.
It goes on. Yeah.
Celery.
Yep.
Snaps like a bone, full of calcium. So
walnuts,
good for bones.
They get rid of your hemorrhoids.
Walnuts.
I had to throw
good for the brain.
Oh, that's right.
Beans. Try beans.
Yep.
Look at the shape of a bean. Kidneys, exactly right. So this isn't rocket science.
It's been around for years.
If it's grown in healthy soil, and I mean healthy soil, not fertilised soil.
Okay, so let's explain this, because we're talking about produce, folks, and we're talking about the produce specifically, the importance of it growing out of your own garden, family and friends. So you can say, I'm going to go out tomorrow and buy some kidney beans or carrots or tomatoes or cucumbers, whatever you want. The problem here is, where has that come from?
Yeah.
How has that been grown?
Yeah.
How has that been treated? This is
worse than that. When was it picked? How far has it travelled? How long has it been stored? So, and this is fact.
Yeah.
Some fresh produce loses 85% of its nutrition within 15 minutes of it being picked. So
there's no shelf life.
No.
And I mean, if we're talking about freshly picked,
using preservatives.
Yes.
And that's where it all starts to fall over.
Yeah, that's where it all explodes. Pandora's box. Explain the preservatives.
Okay, so, I mean, we all hear about preservatives in our food, and we know that they're not supposed to be very good for us. And, of course, some preservatives are natural, things like sugar and salt and spices and the like, vinegar and what have you. But there are some preservatives that are not, and they are chemical. And what ultimately happens is, when I got asked this question, so what do preservatives do in your food? why are they there? They're there to kill bacteria. So when you consume them, what do you think that's doing to the bacteria in your microbiome? The very thing that we're getting told that we need to have a good amount of.
Yeah.
The thing that we should be getting from soil.
So the hypocritical statements when they say go and eat some fresh carrots from your supermarket.
Oh, yeah, shop around the outskirts of the supermarket, where it's all fresh.
Yeah, mate. It is.
None of it's fresh. I should tell a lie. Snap frozen is fresh. But if it's been grown in fertilised soil,
where does it stop?
Then you're wasting your time to a point.
It's irrelevant whether it's fresh or...
They say that about 30% of we're getting about 30% of the nutrition of the food that my grandparents grew.
in today's world, with the knowledge that we have, the technology we have, what we've done is said, Mother Nature, just go aside for a second here, because you're not doing good for our human race here. You're affecting our climate. You're constantly changing it.
Yeah.
It's not our fault, is it? No, it's Mother Nature and our food, the way it's growing.
No, that's not quite right.
What?
Because this is
I know it's not quite right. I'm just...
So what's happened is that because of the population explosion in the last 70 years, we've got it very wrong, because what's happened is that because of the explosion of the amount of food that we need to feed these people, is we're ploughing soil over. And what happens is that topsoil does the heavy lifting when it comes to carbon.
When did it become the responsibility of the giant supermarkets to feed the world?
Never did.
Well, you just made that statement that our food sources has exploded because our population has, so we're going to plough more fields, and then we're going to sell them to somebody else overseas who can take the profits out of that and poison us at the same time.
Here's the thing. I mean, we grow 60% more food than we consume here in Australia.
Do we?
So the majority of it goes overseas.
And do you want to know about the superfood that comes in that we have? Because that comes from all the waste product. And a lot of people have said, wait a second, hasn't that been treated already with chemicals? It has, but it goes through a digestive system through the larvae, which is technically breaking it down. And the analysis shows there is very little to zero.
That's in the superfood.
That's in the superfood. Yeah. So we're going through that larvae process, but not everybody does that to their food. No. So you're better off doing that to the produce you get from the supermarket or that's grown, because the farmers, and this is not having a go at the farmers, and I've said this before, if you're going to do anything, Mr. Farmer or Mrs. Farmer, is try and grow it naturally and pull away from the supermarkets.
Regenerative farming.
Yes, and bring it back to the community, allow them to come to your gate there. So if you can imagine the amount of produce you have pumping out into the supermarkets, and turned around and said, no, come and have a visit here and get it fresh from the farm, we're changing our habits of growing, you will set up a huge community, and it'll become a busy environment where people will constantly be flocking down here to get the fresh produce, and then the birds will turn up again.
You know, well, that's very true. I mean, you know, what's gobsmacks mean? We've got this very wrong.
I know we have, mate. I know we have.
You know, I live in 18% of the food bowl of Victoria at Werribee South, you know, so, and they ship lettuce packed into trucks to Queensland. And on the way to Queensland, they pass trucks coming to Werribee South with lettuce.
I know.
We've both got lettuce.
I know.
You keep yours and we'll keep it. It just doesn't make sense.
It's not meant to.
I guess the message in all of this is that you have no control over how supermarkets are growing
and producing
the food that you're consuming. And the food that you're consuming is making you ill. And your family ill. It's depleting your autoimmune system.
You can polish it till the cows come home.
The only way that you can turn some of this around, and I'm not saying you can turn it all around, and that not everyone's got the room. I'm only on a very small block of land, so you don't need an acreage like Vasili's got out here. You know, a small amount of room, you'd be gobsmacked at how much you can produce. And produce it in healthy soil, not using high analysis NPK fertilisers, using products that are animal-based, you know, manures and so forth, or insect-based like Vasili's gone down the path of. I mean, this is what nature intended, and that way you're going to jam-pack that food so it's nutrient-dense and it's got all of the right gear in it, all the bacteria and so forth, so when you consume it, you're repopulating your system with what you're supposed to have.
And the statement you said before about our gut bio and our soil bio being very much alike.
Well, you think about and it's not just the plants.
No, I know.
We're taught, you know, 80% the
Let's
water
go
should
to
be
the livestock.
So if you're eating meat,
if you're a meat eater,
and that produce, that you know, lamb, for instance, is being fed on pasture that has been fertilised, the animal has been disconnected from the pasture, so it's not getting in its microbiome what it should be, and when we consume that animal, nor are we. So it's a vicious circle.
Sad.
And as I say, the more of the soil that we turn over, and nothing, bear in mind, turns soil over on the planet like we do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying don't ever turn your soil over. By all means, turn it over a little bit.
Get it
you
ready.
know, as much as an animal might
That's it,
turn the
100
soil
mil.
over, or exactly.
That's it. Scratch the surface.
Or a bird.
That's
for
the
instance.
composting layer.
But don't be getting in there with a fork and turning it all over, because what you're doing is you're oxidising the carbon.
Yep.
And it's being released back up into the atmosphere.
Yeah,
so
so
in
you
the
may as well
last
be farting.
70 years, we have released more carbon than in any other time in our history because of the plough. And because we're turning all of that soil over, we're putting all that carbon back up into the atmosphere.
How the hell did we forget or lose our way down the path of just, you know, traditional gardening? And,
Well,
you know, even, farming too back in the day, they never ploughed that deep. They may rip the soil a little bit on top, but whatever they put back in came out of the
came out of the Second World War.
It did,
so it was, they had huge amounts of nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus that they used to make bombs with.
I was going to say they couldn't drop another bomb. What are we going to do with all these chemicals? I know what. Let's chuck it in the earth and make them feed the plants.
No. A German scientist put the three together and realised that it got a huge plant uptake, a growth. Yeah. So they called it the Green Revolution, and they marketed that over the world. Yeah. Great, and isn't it? What's happened is that we're now using 10 times the amount of nitrogen to feed the soil. Do you know, above every hectare, there is 32 tonnes of nitrogen in the air, which the microbes filter and
push back into the
disperse
earth.
back down into the soil.
That's it.
So why are we applying nitrogen?
I know.
You know, we don't need it.
It's difficult. It's a difficult situation. Breaking it back down to basics, it's understanding that whatever you put into your system has to come out of your own garden. If it's handheld and fed through a third party, you have no control of what happens to your immune health and longevity of your life.
Correct.
I'll give you another example. A good mate of mine, he would pick up at the markets, Footscray market when it was in Footscray. He'd pick up all the produce, and, you know, I used to see him there now and then, and he'd be buying decks upon decks of spring onions, you know, whatever they needed, silver beet, spinach, to make the dips. Yeah. Along the journey, this was fine for the last, you know, for the first 15 years, but the biosecurity laws change, and as they are going to change again now, and it took effect on the commercial industry, so that means whatever fresh produce, and if I haven't got this incorrect,
I know where you're
whatever
going.
fresh produce that enters the factory for production to be
from overseas,
from even local, right, has to go through a biosecurity treatment measure. And what does that mean? Killing off
the bacteria.
The bacteria. We do not want to have a single piece of living organism on this bit of fruit or vegetable before it goes into a processing plant. And how did I find this out? I've rocked up to his little factory that he's got in Coburg North, right? Go over there in the afternoon, we used to hang out together. One day I've rocked up there and I can have this almighty smell coming out. It was the same smell that my parents were given by the security, saying that your potatoes have to be treated with this before you cook it. That's when my parents shut the shop and said, I ain't doing that. Well, that's what they said to them, but little did they know, they weren't dumping their potatoes in it to create that preservative effect. I knocked on his roller door, opened the roller door, I said, mate, what's this smell? He goes, 1 second, stand back. He opens it up and it was like a steam room, right? He's in a full body suit. I go, what are you doing? He goes, I'm dunking the spring onions. In what? In this liquid here. I go, what for? He goes, I've been told. Because the retail store says it can't have it. They have some geek in the office who's never grown a plant in their life telling her, oh, there's microbes on it. Look at your hand.
Microbes on that.
Look at your anus.
That's it.
You want to talk about microbes, huh? Right, but this is what's happening. So we can't have the produce going, don't give me any excuse. Clean your bloody systems properly. Don't blame it on the fruit and veggies, mate. Clean the operation systems, or don't do it at all. Let people at home make their own dips. So, and that's what happened. And now he has to dunk everything. Hey, Mr. Horsey. Now, that's one tiny, incy-wincy example of what's happening out there. And the growers, as I said, folks, it's not about you guys having a go. I know you're cornered, you're forced to do it. Stand up to it if you can. If you can, I'd love to come out and film it. We're in Werribee, you're in Werribee. Let's go down one day. I'll organise to see little Johnny. Is it Danny? I forgot his name, with the cauliflowers. Plenty of butter is a secret, he reckons. So I'd love to go down there and talk to the growers and get it from first hand and see what they've got to say.
Yeah, look.
What's the problem?
Well, the problem is that they're generally locked into contracts that they can't talk about.
Yeah, well.
You know, so...
Well, we could talk about his private garden, and I'll ask him if he uses the same chemicals in his garden.
Yeah, look, I know I interviewed a few of them when I did, wrote A Simple Urban Life.
Yeah.
But I couldn't quote them.
Yep.
I couldn't quote their name. I could talk about what we discussed, but I couldn't quote them because of the contracts that they were in.
No, we don't have to quote the company name. You can make up a name, whatever you want, but at the end of the day, if it's a person there who's going through that experiences, what gives them the right to hide that? Why is it a secretive thing?
I agree.
For it to be a secret, obviously it can't be right.
Yeah.
It's not a money-making industry in the sense that that secret is going to make somebody else money.
Yeah.
It's going to expose the real truth.
Yeah. So look, it's got to the point now where, as I say,
I've been told to calm down. I am calm.
With regard to the soil microbiology, as I say, I mean, what I've discovered is pointing to the to the fact that we all really should be utilising our own gardens, front, back, or whatever room you've got. Pots. You can grow food in pots. You don't have to necessarily have to have.
You can grow
on a balcony. You can grow food.
Indira Nadu, if I pronounced her name correctly, from New South, I spoke about her. She's got a balcony garden. She wrote a book on it. We had her in a magazine as well. And she had more food than she could eat. She was giving it away to her neighbours. Right? I mean, this guy here, the best mortadella we're going to make out of him. I'm joking, folks. If you took that serious, you're an idiot. Don't. Never do it to him. Krishna is a good boy. So, folks, keep it simple, keep it basic. Try and grow at least lettuce. I mean, one of all things, lettuce, parsley, spring onions.
Yeah, well, at $5 a pop at the moment.
Yeah, and it's coming from Queensland, and it's got a bit of pink in it.
Yeah.
You're wondering what's going on and how fresh is it really. So and the excuse is they can't travel because of the floods. Why is it coming down from there anyway in the first place?
We've got plenty down here.
Yeah, exactly. So grow your own as much as you can.
Got heaps.
Yep, grow your own as much as you can. Enjoy what you have out of your own garden. If you need seeds, they're online. You can share with your family and friends if you haven't got seeds and see if they've got any you can get off them.
And
check
if you're not sure how to grow them, then buy a couple of books.
Yeah,
all the information that you need to know about how to utilise your space wisely and how to companion plant to keep your chemicals out. It's all there. So
it is. VasilisGarden.com, CraigCashfree.com.au. Everything you need from Craig and I.
Maresi.
Maresi.